He once bought 14 Cadillacs in a single day, giving most away to friends and even strangers. Elvis Presley sometimes rented out the entire Memphis Fairgrounds amusement park, just so he and his friends could ride roller coasters all night long without crowds. The king of rock and roll turned his basement into a den with 3 televisions running at once, decades before multi-screen man caves were a thing. Number 10. He couldn't resist Memphis food, especially one greasy spoon. Okay, picture this. It's Memphis. It's hot. And you're Elvis Presley. What do you crave? Turns out, the king was a massive fan of down-home Memphis cooking. Forget fancy Michelin stars. Elvis loved the real deal. One place that held a special spot in his heart and stomach was the Gridiron. This wasn't some highfalutin establishment. Nope. It was a classic, no-frills Southern diner. The kind of place where the waitresses knew your order before you even sat down. Elvis reportedly loved their cheeseburgers. Like really, really loved them. He wasn't putting on airs here. This was genuine affection for simple, satisfying food. He'd sometimes roll up late at night with his entourage, grabbing a booth and just chilling like anyone else. Well, almost like anyone else. Imagine being there munching on your fries, and the king himself walks in wild. But it wasn't just the Gridiron. Elvis had a thing for Memphis barbecue too. Places like Leonard's Pit Barbecue were legendary, serving up pulled pork sandwiches dripping with tangy sauce. Elvis appreciated that smoky, slow-cooked goodness that Memphis is famous for. There are stories of him sending out members of his crew, the Memphis Mafia, on late-night missions to fetch bags full of barbecue sandwiches. He knew what was good. And let's not forget the peanut butter and banana sandwiches, often fried. While maybe not exclusive to Memphis, it became synonymous with Elvis, and you bet he enjoyed them right there in his hometown. He had his cook at Graceland, Mary Jenkins, whip them up just the way he liked. It wasn't just about the taste. It was about comfort food, the kind of stuff that makes you feel grounded and happy. For Elvis, Memphis food was a taste of home, a connection to his roots, something reliable and delicious in a life that was often chaotic and overwhelming. It was simple, it was satisfying, and it was pure Memphis. He didn't just eat it. He savored it, made it part of his routine, part of his Memphis identity. Number 9. Renting out entire theaters. For midnight movie marathons was his thing. Elvis Presley loved movies. Like really loved them. But when you're the most famous person on the planet, just popping down to the local multiplex for the latest blockbusters isn't exactly easy. Fans would mob him, paparazzi would flash bulbs in his face, it would be total chaos. So, what did the king do? He brought the movie theater experience to him, on his own terms, right there in Memphis. His go-to spot was often the Memphian Theater, a beautiful old movie palace. But instead of buying a ticket for the 7:30 show, Elvis would call up the manager and rent the entire place out after it closed to the public. Usually starting around midnight or 1 a.m., he and his entourage, the Memphis Mafia, friends, family, sometimes even lucky fans he invited along, would have the whole theater to themselves. Imagine having a massive, empty movie theater as your personal living room. They'd watch double features, sometimes triple features, of current hits, classic films, whatever struck Elvis's fancy. He loved comedies, action flicks, and martial arts movies. He was a huge karate enthusiast after all. He wasn't just a passive viewer either. Stories abound of Elvis shouting lines at the screen, laughing uproariously, or even getting up and play-acting scenes in the aisles and the snacks. Oh, the snacks. They didn't just grab a small popcorn and a Coke. The concession stand would be kept open just for them, piled high with popcorn, candy, hot dogs, ice cream, sodas, you name it. It was an all-you-can-eat feast, accompanying the film fest. This wasn't just about seeing movies, it was about creating a private, fun, controlled environment where he could relax and be himself away from the craziness of his public life. It was a shared experience with his closest friends, a way to unwind and indulge in one of his favorite pastimes, all under the cloak of Memphis midnight. Renting out the Memphian wasn't just extravagant. It was a necessary escape hatch, a way for Elvis to enjoy a simple pleasure in his beloved hometown without the world watching. He turned a public space into his private sanctuary, just for a few hours, fueled by film and friendship. Number 8. Getting his iconic style from a Beale Street legend. Before Elvis was the king with the jumpsuits and capes, he was a young guy trying to figure out his look. And where did he find the threads that would help define his revolutionary style? Right on Beale Street in Memphis, at a little shop called Lansky Bros. Run by Bernard and Guy Lansky, this place wasn't selling boring suits and ties. Lansky Bros catered to the vibrant African-American music scene on Beale Street, stocking flashy, colorful, eye-catching clothes, sharp suits in pink and black, high-collared shirts, pegged pants. It was the kind of stuff that stood out, that had attitude. Young Elvis, working as a truck driver and dreaming of music, would apparently press his nose against the Lansky Bros' window, admiring the bold styles inside. He didn't have much money back then, but Bernard Lansky saw something in the kid. He let Elvis buy on credit, recognizing his potential, or maybe just liking his earnest enthusiasm. As Elvis's career took off, he didn't forget Lansky Bros. He kept coming back. Those early iconic looks, the pink suits, the black shirts with pink trim, the high collars that framed his face perfectly, many of them came straight off the racks or were custom-made by the Lanskys. Bernard Lansky famously became known as the clothier to the king. Think about it. Elvis's style was a huge part of his appeal. It was rebellious, different, a visual shockwave, just like his music. And that style was born in Memphis on Beale Street, in a shop that understood flair and performance. He didn't go to New York or Hollywood tailors initially. He stuck with the Memphis guys who got him from the start. Even as he got more famous and could afford anything, he maintained a connection with the Lanskys. It was more than just clothes. It was a relationship built in his hometown, a reminder of where he came from and the scene that inspired him. Lansky Bros wasn't just a store. It was a crucial part of the Elvis origin story, a place where a Memphis kid found the look that would help him conquer the world. His love for their style was a love for the bold, unique spirit of Memphis itself. Number 7. He was basically Memphis's secret Santa all year round. Elvis Presley made a fortune. Like an unbelievable amount of money for the time. But he didn't just hoard it in Graceland's vaults. though he probably could have. One of the things Elvis seemed to genuinely love doing, especially in Memphis, was giving his money away. His generosity was legendary, often spontaneous and incredibly extravagant. He wasn't just donating lump sums to organized charities, though he did that too, supporting numerous Memphis causes quietly. Elvis was known for acts of personal, almost impulsive giving. If he heard someone had a problem, or if he simply saw someone he felt could use a boost, he'd often step in. The most famous examples involve cars. Cadillacs were a favorite. There are countless verified stories of Elvis walking into a Memphis car dealership and buying a whole fleet of cars on the spot. He wouldn't just buy one for himself. He'd buy them for his friends, his family, members of his entourage, sometimes even for complete strangers he'd just met, or people he saw admiring a car in the showroom. Imagine standing there, looking at your dream car, and Elvis Presley walks up, asks if you like it, and then tells the salesman, "I'll take this one for myself and one for her too." Mind blown. He once bought 14 Cadillacs in a single day from a Memphis dealer. But it wasn't just cars. He bought houses for people. He'd pay off strangers' debts or mortgages if he heard they were struggling. He'd hand out $100 bills like they were candy. He covered hospital bills. He'd shower people with jewelry, trips, and other expensive gifts. During the holidays, he was known to make huge donations to Memphis charities to ensure underprivileged families had food and presents. Why did he do it? Maybe it was because he grew up poor in Tupelo in Memphis and never forgot what that felt like. Maybe he just genuinely enjoyed seeing the joy and shock on people's faces. Whatever the reason, this wasn't a calculated PR move. It seemed to be a deep-seated part of his personality. Memphis was his home base, the place where he felt most comfortable, and it was the primary stage for these incredible acts of generosity. He loved being able to use his success to directly, personally impact the lives of people in his community. It was his way of sharing the dream right there in the city that launched him. Number 6. Rolling deep with his Memphis crew was non-negotiable. Elvis might have been a solo act on stage, but in his personal life, he was rarely alone. He surrounded himself with a core group of friends, family, and employees known collectively as the Memphis Mafia. And this crew wasn't just some Hollywood hangers-on. They were mostly guys he knew from his Memphis days, people he trusted and felt comfortable with. Having them around was essential to his happiness and well-being, especially in Memphis. These weren't mobsters, despite the nickname, which came from the media seeing them roll up in dark suits and sunglasses alongside Elvis. They were his bodyguards, road managers, companions, and confidants. Guys like Red West and Lamar Fike were with him from the early days. His cousins, like Billy Smith, were integral parts of the inner circle. They were the buffer between Elvis and the overwhelming demands of fame. In Memphis, the Memphis Mafia was constantly around Graceland. They lived on the property or nearby. They were his buddies for late-night chats, movie marathons, amusement park adventures, and spontaneous road trips. They provided security, but more importantly, they provided normalcy, or Elvis's version of it. They were the guys he could joke with, relax with, maybe even complain to. They knew the Memphis Elvis, not just the superstar Elvis. He relied on them for everything, from managing his affairs to fetching those late-night barbecue sandwiches. They were fiercely loyal to him, and he was incredibly loyal and generous to them. Having his Memphis crew around meant he always had a piece of home with him, whether he was actually in Memphis on a movie set in Hollywood or performing in Vegas. But their presence was perhaps most felt in Memphis. At Graceland, they were part of the furniture, fixtures in the daily life of the king. They shared inside jokes, memories of growing up or early struggles in Memphis, and an understanding of the unique pressures Elvis faced. They were his link to a life before superstardom, his shield against the outside world, and his chosen family. Elvis deeply loved having his guys, his Memphis people, around him. They were his anchor in the often crazy sea of his life, and their roots were firmly planted in Memphis soil, just like his. Number 5. Soaking up the sounds that changed everything on Beale Street. Long before Elvis became the global phenomenon, Beale Street in Memphis was already pulsating with music. It was the heart and soul of the city's vibrant African-American community, a legendary strip packed with blues clubs, juke joints, pawn shops, and theaters. And a young Elvis Presley, growing up in Memphis, was irresistibly drawn to its energy and its sounds. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, Beale Street was electric. Blues legends like B. King Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters were honing their craft in its clubs. Gospel music poured out of nearby churches. Rhythm and blues was evolving, getting ready to explode. It was a melting pot of raw, soulful, deeply expressive music. Elvis, a white teenager living in a segregated city, soaked it all in. He might not have been able to just walk into every club, but the music spilled out onto the street. He listened to blues records. He reportedly snuck into venues sometimes or listened from outside. He also frequented shops like Lansky Broads, as mentioned earlier, right there on Beale, absorbing the atmosphere. He heard the gospel quartets that performed downtown. This immersion wasn't just casual listening. It was formative. The blues licks, the R&B rhythms, the passionate vocal styles, the soulful call and response of gospel, all of these elements seeped into Elvis's musical DNA. You can hear the influence of Beale Street clearly in his early Sun recordings and throughout his career. He took these sounds, blended them with the country and pop music he also loved, and created something new, something explosive, rock and roll. His love for Beale Street wasn't just about the music itself. It was about the feeling, the raw energy, the authenticity. It represented a side of Memphis that was different from his own upbringing, yet deeply resonant. It was the sound of struggle, joy, and unvarnished emotion. Even after he became famous, the influence of Beale Street remained. He understood that the music he made was deeply indebted to the sounds he heard coming from that legendary Memphis street. His connection to Beale wasn't just historical. It was a fundamental part of his artistic identity, a testament to the rich musical soil of his chosen hometown. He loved the source, the raw power of the music that Memphis, and particularly Beale Street, offered up. Number 4. Making Graceland his ultimate comfort zone. When Elvis bought Graceland in 1957, it wasn't just a house. It became his sanctuary, his fortress, his playground, and the ultimate symbol of his connection to Memphis. Located on what was then the outskirts of the city, this sprawling mansion on its 13.8-acre estate was where Elvis could truly be himself, away from the screaming fans and relentless spotlight. He didn't just live in Graceland, he created it, pouring his personality and considerable resources into making it uniquely his own. He loved the privacy it offered. The famous musical gates weren't just decorative. They were a necessary barrier. Inside those gates, Elvis could relax with his family and the Memphis Mafia. He could ride horses, drive golf carts around the grounds, or just hang out. It was his home base, the place he always returned to after tours, movies, or Vegas stints. And oh, how he personalized it! Graceland is famous for its unique decor, which was all Elvis. The Jungle Room, with its green shag carpet on the floor and ceiling, indoor waterfall, and Polynesian-inspired furniture, was a place he loved to unwind and even record music. It sounds wild, and it was. But it was his vision of a relaxing den. Then there was the basement media room, painted bright yellow and black, equipped with 3 TV sets, side by side, so he could watch multiple shows at once, apparently, and a wet bar. The pool room was draped floor to ceiling in fabric, creating a cozy, den-like atmosphere. These weren't rooms designed by some fancy interior decorator following trends. They were expressions of Elvis's personal taste, his whims, his idea of comfort and fun. He loved tinkering with the house, constantly updating and changing things. It was his ultimate creative project outside of music. Graceland was also where he kept his family close. His parents lived there initially, and later his aunt. Priscilla and Lisa Marie called it home. It was the center of his personal universe. He hosted parties, held impromptu jam sessions, and simply lived his life there. Even the racquetball building, added later, was more than just a sports facility. It had a lounge and entertainment area, another space for him to escape and enjoy life on his own terms. For Elvis, Graceland wasn't just a mansion, it was Memphis, embodied in brick and mortar. It represented his success, his security, and his deep desire for a place where he could truly feel at home. He poured his heart, soul, and personality into every corner of it, making it the ultimate Elvis Presley comfort zone. Number 3. Where a shy truck driver accidentally became a legend, Sun Studio. The name itself is legendary in music history. And for Elvis Presley, this small, unassuming recording studio at 706 Union Avenue in Memphis wasn't just a place he made some records. It was the launch pad for everything. It was where the magic happened, where a nervous young truck driver found his voice and changed the world. Elvis deeply loved Sun, not just for what it did for his career, but for the freedom and belief it offered him when no one else did. Run by the visionary Sam Phillips, Sun Records was dedicated to recording the blues, R&B, and country musicians of Memphis and the surrounding region. Phillips famously said something along the lines of, "If I could find a white man who had the Negro sound and the Negro feel, I could make $1 billion." He wasn't necessarily looking for Elvis, but he was looking for something new, something authentic. In the summer of 1953, Elvis walked into Sun Studio, supposedly to record a song for his mother's birthday, a $4 private recording. He sang "My Happiness" and "That's When Your Heartaches Begin." Marion Keisker, Phillips' assistant, was intrigued by his unique sound and made a note, "Good ballad singer hold." He came back a few times, trying different things, but nothing quite clicked. Then, in July 1954, Sam Phillips brought Elvis back into the studio to try again, pairing him with guitarist Scotty Moore and bassist Bill Black. They were working on a ballad, "I Love You Because," but it wasn't quite working. During a break, Elvis spontaneously started goofing around, singing an upbeat, energetic version of Arthur Big Boy Crudup's blues song, "That's All Right." Scotty and Bill jumped in. Sam Phillips heard it from the control room and immediately knew this was it. This was the sound he'd been looking for. He had them record it. They needed a B-side, so they worked up a unique rocking version of Bill Monroe's bluegrass waltz, "Blue Moon of Kentucky." That record, Sun 209, was lightning in a bottle. When Memphis DJ Dewey Phillips, no relation to Sam, played "That's All Right" on his Red Hot and Blue radio show, the phone lines lit up. People had never heard anything like it. Was he black? Was he white? It didn't matter. They loved it. Sun Studio was where Elvis found the confidence to blend his influences, blues, gospel country, into his own revolutionary style. Sam Phillips didn't try to change him. He encouraged him to be himself. For Elvis Sun wasn't just a building. It was the place that believed in him, the place that captured his raw talent, the place where Elvis Presley, the shy kid from Memphis, became Elvis. His affection for Sun was rooted in that pivotal moment of discovery and the beginning of his unbelievable journey. It was the fertile Memphis ground where his musical revolution took root. Number 2. Feeling the love from his hometown fans like nowhere else. Elvis Presley was loved by millions, billions all over the globe. But the connection he had with his fans in Memphis felt different, special. This was his hometown crowd, the people who knew him before the fame, who watched him rise and who claimed him as their own. Elvis felt that hometown pride and reciprocated it with the unique warmth and accessibility, at least in the earlier years and in specific moments later on. In the beginning, before the massive fame made it impossible, Elvis was very much a part of the Memphis scene. People would see him around town, driving his Cadillacs, going to the movies even before he rented them out, or just hanging out. There was a sense of shared identity. He was the local boy who made good, really, really good. Even as his fame exploded, Memphis remained his anchor. When he performed in Memphis, the energy was electric. His 1961 charity show at the Ellis Auditorium was a massive event, a triumphant homecoming. Later, his 1974 concerts at the Mid-South Coliseum were legendary. He was playing for his people, in his city, and you could feel the mutual affection. He seemed more relaxed, more himself on a Memphis stage. The fans in Memphis also had a unique relationship with Graceland. While the gates provided privacy, they also became a focal point for fans. People would gather there, hoping for a glimpse of the king. Sometimes, especially in the earlier years or on special occasions, Elvis would come down to the gates, chat with fans, sign autographs, and pose for pictures. It was a direct interaction that became rarer as his fame grew, but those moments were cherished by Memphis fans. They weren't just screaming at a distant icon. They were talking to Elvis, their neighbor, albeit a very famous one. He recognized this special bond. He often spoke fondly of Memphis and its people. While he loved his fans everywhere, the Memphis connection was personal. These were the people who understood his roots, who spoke his language, literally and figuratively, and who were fiercely proud of his success. When he was criticized or misunderstood by the national press, Memphis often felt like a safe harbor, a place where he was fundamentally understood and appreciated. This hometown love wasn't just background noise. It was something Elvis actively felt and valued. It grounded him. Seeing familiar faces, hearing the Memphis accent, performing for the crowd that knew him best, it all contributed to his deep affection for the city. The unwavering support and pride from Memphis fans was a constant affirmation, a reminder that no matter how far he traveled, Memphis was always home, always welcoming, always loving its king. Number one, it was just home. Beyond the specific places, people, food, and music, the number one thing Elvis Presley deeply loved about Memphis was simply that it was home. It was the city that adopted him, shaped him, and launched him into the stratosphere, and it remained his emotional center throughout his life. Elvis wasn't born in Memphis. He was born in Tupelo, Mississippi in 1935. His family moved to Memphis in 1948 when Elvis was 13, seeking better economic opportunities. They were poor, moving several times before settling into public housing. Memphis was where Elvis spent his formative teenage years, where he attended Humes High School, where he absorbed the melting pot of musical influences, and where he started dreaming of something bigger. Memphis was where he got his first taste of independence, working odd jobs, including driving that truck for Crown Electric. It was where he felt the stirrings of the music that would define him. It was where he felt like he belonged, more so perhaps than anywhere else. Even though Tupelo was his birthplace, Memphis became his true hometown, the landscape of his youth and his meteoric rise. When fame struck, he could have moved anywhere. He could have set up permanent residence in Los Angeles near the movie studios, or later in Las Vegas where he had massive success. Many stars did. But Elvis chose to stay rooted in Memphis. He bought Graceland there. His family was there. His closest friends, the Memphis Mafia, were mostly Memphis guys. He returned to Memphis between tours and filming schedules like a homing pigeon. Why? Because Memphis represented authenticity and comfort in a life that was increasingly surreal. It was where he could shed the skin of Elvis the entertainer and just be Elvis, the Memphis boy. It was familiar territory, filled with memories both good and challenging. It was the place whose culture, the music, the food, the pace of life, the Southern manners was ingrained in him. He loved the city's vibe, its unique blend of Southern charm and gritty reality. He felt connected to its history, particularly its rich musical heritage. He invested in the city, not just financially, through purchases and taxes, but emotionally. He defended Memphis and spoke of it with genuine affection. When he was away, Memphis was the place he longed for. When he was there, surrounded by the sights, sounds, and people he knew best, he seemed most at ease. Ultimately, all the other things he loved, Graceland, Sun Studio, Beale Street, the food, the fans, his friends, were threads weaving together the rich tapestry of what Memphis meant to him. It wasn't just a location on a map. It was the epicenter of his world, the source of his identity, the constant in his whirlwind life. More than anything else, Elvis loved about Memphis. He loved that it was, simply and profoundly, home.